playing it. That's Hey, so we're going to talk about celebrating today. Who'd like to celebrate? Anybody want to celebrate? Come on, this is going to be fun. Celebrate in church. We should be talking about this way, way more often. Seriously, this should be like something, as there's something great about it. You will live a thriving life when you learn how to celebrate. And so I want to start us off with a question. When's the last time you celebrated something? When's the last time you celebrated? I'm not just talking about like you did like a little Facebook post to somebody. Like, when's the last time for real you like went out and celebrated? Think about it right now. When did that happen? You know, was that a week ago? Was that a month ago? When did you celebrate something? Now I want you to think about this other question with that. When could you have celebrated something? When did you have something that happened in your life that you could have celebrated, that you could have went out for? It could be a new job opportunity. It could be a windfall that happened at work. It could be something that happened in family. It could be a breakthrough that you had, a project you got done. And think about this. Include everybody around you now. When could you have celebrated something? And I want you to think about the gap between those. And if there is a gap, if those things aren't the same, if you're like, oh, I could have, I'll tell you, you are missing out an opportunity for the thriving life. You're missing out the opportunity to celebrate. I want to convince you, God has something in celebration for you. Now, I can think a lot about celebration. Just a couple weeks ago, my wife turned 40. Come on, let's hear it for 40. Come on. She did it. She did it. Hopefully there's a lot more. Now, this is a picture. This is actually 5 years ago. This is on April's 35th birthday, August 19th. And there are 100 people in our backyard and inside of our house. This is our backyard. And not one of them is there to celebrate April's birthday. We got 100 people there, not one. Why? Because that is the day we launched Crossroads Florence 5 years ago. And just a little tip for you. Don't start a church on your wife's birthday, especially when your wife loves birthdays. That's a horrible idea. It was terrible. I will never do that again. I'll never do that again. And so as her 40th birthday was rolling around, April stopped me, and she totally voluntold me that I was going to throw her a good party. You ever been voluntold before? Like, not told. Like, told would be like, hey, you should throw me a great party. April instead says, hey, you are going to not go to work that weekend, and you are going to throw me a great 40th birthday party. Yes, I am. That's what I was thinking, honey. That's what I was thinking that. You know, I'm so glad that we're on the same page. This is good. All right, so I got voluntold, y'all. And so I was like, oh, crap. How do I throw a great 40th birthday? Honey, how do I throw a great 40th birthday party? What would you like to be a part of that, since we're thinking the same? Just testing you. And she says, I want family and friends there. I want music and lights. And I want Chewies. Come on, Chewies. Anybody like Chewies? Who likes Chewies? Creamy jalapeno. Can we hear it for the creamy jalapeno sauce? For real. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. And so I spent weeks like getting ready and planning, and I got nowhere. It was not good. And so I think April probably saw me struggling. She's like, she didn't even ask. She just called some friends. And so my friends, Anna and Danielle, two of her close friends, they're like, hey, you know what? Do you need some help? Yeah. Yes, I do. That'd be great. And so they started, we actually had meetings. We went to a whiteboard. We planned out everything. And so this was the plan that we came up with. And this is actually a picture of the cake that Anna made. She made this thing. Look at that decorations on it. It was amazing. It was beautiful. Did you know that at parties like this, you've got plates that you don't eat on? They're just plates that look pretty. They're called chargers. So weird. Like, why would people do that? It's so odd. But like, you see that wife's face? I am serious. That was awesome. Our friends, it was great. We had 40 candles on that. We didn't even realize that it was actually setting the 40 on fire. So we looked and we're like, oh crap, we got to get this thing out. And so I just tell you, it turned out amazing. It was beautiful. Let's go to the next picture. This was before everyone was sitting down. Those are flowers from our different yards, and they're like weeds that were growing that they turned into beautiful things and spreads on the table. And if you look in the back, do you see those aluminum trusses? God bless Crossroads. Those are normally on stage, and I totally borrowed them. And man, we had 50-foot strings of lights going all the way across, and it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was tough. You know, a confession that I have to tell you. It was a busy, crazy season getting ready for it. And I went on a website that I'm just not proud of. I looked at Pinterest. and I liked it. I'm sorry, y'all. I mean, no guy should ever go on Pinterest. I'll tell you, it was like coming up with ideas, and it like took me down this wormhole where like you look at one, and then there's another idea, and you look at it again, and I was like creating buckets to put stuff in. It was weird. But you know, like we got great ideas there. Here's another confession. It was a ton of work. It was a ton of work. Like, I'll tell you, it was planning, and it was effort, and it was stressful leading up to it, and it was beautiful. It was amazing. And I'll tell you, I don't regret a second of it. I don't regret a second of putting in the effort. And man, I just tell you, it was great to see my wife just be able to enjoy it with her friends. It was great. And one of the things you and I have to understand, if you want a thriving life, one of the most consistent messages in the Bible is you've got to learn how to celebrate. You've got to take time to celebrate. And if you don't make time, you're going to go a different direction. You'll live a striving life. You will not get to a place of thriving. Here's one of the places where it describes this. It's Romans 12. I like the Message version here. And it says, so here's what I want you to do. God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary, your sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life. So it says you can have the striving life, and that's going to be the grind that you get in. You're going to keep going. It says, here's what you do with that. Place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Did you know that you can just keep cranking through and you'll live this striving life and not even realize it? But he says there's another way to go. Embrace what God's done for you. When you choose to celebrate and embrace the thing that's done for you, it actually describes in a different version. It says you'll receive transformation. It says be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You'll be transformed. God will work in you and you'll get access to the thriving life. You want to build team morale? You want to build up people around you? You want to build up team? Celebrate and do it regularly. And you want to crush the team around you. You want to crush the people you love and care about. Never celebrate. Never do it, and you won't experience the thriving life if we don't learn how to celebrate. It's part of the reason why the people of God have always been told to do that. In the Old Testament, it was festivals that they had to do 7 times a year. They had to stop and celebrate. They had to stop what they were doing and quit working to like take inventory of everything that was going on and say, God, you're good, and we want to celebrate it, and we want to recognize it. And I'm telling you, that need, while we still don't do the same festivals, the need is no different for us. I like how this author puts it in the book Celebration of Discipline. He says this. Let's look over here. There it is. Celebration is central to all the spiritual disciplines. Without a joyful spirit of festivity, the disciplines become dull, death-breathing tools in the hands of modern Pharisees. What's he saying here? He's saying reading your Bible is good, praying is good, fasting is good, going to church is good. All of those things are great disciplines. You should do them. You should engage in them. But those things alone will make you miss out on something if you don't engage in, if you don't learn how to become people that celebrate. People that are able to look around and see what God's doing and recognize the goodness he's put in your life. Those things will become law. Those things will become dull and lifeless unless you learn how to recognize the goodness that God's put in you. You learn how to stop and you learn how to celebrate it. And all of us can struggle with this from time to time. We'll have seasons where we don't do well, but we've got to get better at it. And I just see an epidemic going on. I was doing some research this week, and there's this thing called Project Time Off. And one of the things that they track is how often do you and I actually miss our vacation days that we have and just let them go? You know, how often do we waste those? And it says we fail to use 662 million vacation days annually. Million. What's worse, employees forfeited 206 million vacation days in 2016. These days couldn't be rolled over, could not be paid out, were not banked or used for any other benefit. They were purely lost. These days add up to $66.4 billion in forfeited benefits across the workforce. 206 million vacation days lost. Why? Because we chose not to stop and to celebrate and to use them. We chose to grind through the striving life. I'll tell you, we've got to do something. Not just because when you don't take vacation, you have a higher risk for heart disease, although that is true. You will do that. Studies show it. Not only because when you skip your vacation, you will have higher rates of depression in your life. It's scientifically proven. Why? Because you're missing out on the thriving life. You're missing out. That's 206 million days that could have been spent celebrating what God has done. I tell you, we're missing it. And God says, I have more for you if you're willing to stop and take time and actually celebrate. I want to do that today. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned we had April's 40th birthday. And I tell you, it was a great reason to celebrate. Things that we missed that I just don't want us to miss. 2 weeks ago, we turned 5 as a campus. We turned 5 years old as Crossroads Florence. Folks, we are officially in kindergarten. We can ride the bus. It's amazing. It's a good place to be. We turned 5. And I tell you, man, it's easy to just keep grinding and not stop and celebrate. We're not going to do that. We're going to stop, and I just want to share with you what God has done, how good he's been, that I have so much to celebrate and be thankful for in my life, and I hope that you walk away with this feeling that you do too. One of those is 5 years ago, I just want to celebrate. There were people in Oakley and in Mason that gave so that we could have a campus here, so that we could see lives transformed, knowing that they wouldn't get any benefit out of that. In fact, Mason was still meeting in a middle school at the time. And yet they gave so that we could have a campus and people could have their lives changed. That's we're celebrating people that somebody went ahead of us. Somebody invested in us. Somebody invested in you. Love that. Want to celebrate that. I want to celebrate that I look back and there were 50 families that before we opened during the summer, they said, Terry, we're going to give a year. We're going to show up every week. Our whole families are going to show up every week, and we're going to serve, and we're going to give, and we're going to make this thing happen. We're going to make it a reality. And they were called our launch team. And all the glory goes to God, but I want to honor that launch team. I want to celebrate them. Thank you. If you're part of those 50 families, we thank you. We thank you. We get to be here because some of the sacrifice that you made. Thank you. And I look around, almost all of those 50 families are still here 5 years in. Just amazing to see that, amazing to get to be a part of that. I look back at our first weekend. We had prayed hard as a team. We had plans. We did everything we could, and we had an exact number that we prayed for. We prayed for 1,588 people. That's what we want. God, you could bring 1,588 people. That would be a miracle. I don't know who the loser is that double prayed it, but they prayed twice, so they prayed extra. And all of a sudden, all these extra people came. We had over 3,000 people our first weekend. Are you kidding me? It was crazy. It was crazy. It was an unbelievable adventure that I never would have thought we could go on. It was a thriving life. A thriving life. After 2 weeks, we changed our service times. After 8 weeks, we added a Saturday service. During that time, we would be the catalyst to help raising hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight the heroin epidemic right here. Anyone excited about that? That we have people talking about that. We have people whose families are getting help in that. And I'll tell you, we're trying to change our city. That we would get to be a part of starting this thing called the Royal Prom, building into the special needs community. We're going to do our 4th year. I love it. We get to be a part of that. I'll tell you, we have thousands of kids that have been blessed and built into here that have gone all the way through high school as a part of Crossroads Florence, are now going to college. Our young adults group was reaching out to them and being a blessing to them. It's awesome. And I asked our spiritual growth team, I hope this blows your mind. I said, how many baptisms have we had? How many baptisms have we had during? How many people have had the most important life-changing decision? They chose to say, Jesus, I want to follow you well. How many did that since we've opened? We had 657 people that had gotten baptized just here. Are you kidding me? 657 people, that is amazing. Amazing. God, we never imagined that. Never imagined that, but we just chose to follow well, and we're going to choose to celebrate. This past week, I got to hear one of those 657 stories. We were at our staff offsite, and it's a day where from all of our campuses, all of our locations, all across the nation, everyone comes together at one place. And we have a time of getting vision. We have a time of fun. And a part of that is to break into smaller groups and share stories. And one of those people, you may recognize her. She's on the Florence staff team now. Her name is Breanna. And she started to tell me her story. And there's a lot that I just hadn't known. I've known Breanna for years. And she started off and reminded me, 5 years ago, she had no idea who Jesus was. She didn't go to church. She didn't have a connection and relationship with Jesus. In fact, the one thing that she had in her life, it was rejection. She had a father that had never been around in her life. And she had a dream. That dream was that she was going to go to CCM and she was going to practice music. And she got rejected. And so she did what probably anyone in her shoes would logically do. She decided to join a marching band for adults. I think it's where you go for like dreams to die. You know, like she joined that. And as a part of that, she runs into this guy that's also a part of it. His name's Chris Okerson. And they both played the tuba. And Chris built a relationship. And he said, you know what? You should come and check this thing out called Awaited. It's this Christmas show we do. She went. She went to a waited, and yes, she was enamored by all the lights and she was enamored by the music, but she had never heard there was a God that came for her. She never heard that there was a God that died for her. She never heard that a God that not only died for her, but wanted relationship with her. It was the first time she ever heard it in a way she could understand. And Chris invited her to keep coming to Crossroads Florence, and she came back. She started asking questions, started engaging, volunteering. She started believing different things about herself. And one day as she was getting ready to come in, her car dies. And she calls and she asks for help. And one of the other guys on staff, he said, God, I feel like I'm hearing this weird thing for Breanna. I feel like I'm supposed to give her my car. It's a 99 Ford Explorer. And so just as he's getting ready to go and tell Breanna, I'm going to give you a 1999 Ford Explorer, Breanna gets a phone call from our Wheels area. Wheels reconditions cars, and we redeploy them to people in the community. And Wheels calls her and says, I have a 1999 Ford Explorer that I want to give you. And she started to realize that God was so good, that God had a plan, that God hadn't left her, that God was even doing little things to build into her, that God was present, that he was worth following. And she chose to follow Jesus well. She chose to get baptized on November 24th, 2013. This is a picture. And that is a thriving life. That is a thriving life. And her story wasn't over there. Not that long after that, she would lose her mom and her brother in about a year time frame. She had lived in her mom's house, and she found out she wasn't going to have a place to stay. And there was a guy that works here, the one that was going to give her his car. He found out he was actually supposed to invite her to be a part of their family. And so they made room for her, had her move into their house, showed him what a family looks like, showed him what a father looks like, the first time she ever knew the love of a father. She started to have dreams again, and I'll tell you, when Breanna comes and sings here, you get blessed, don't you? I'll tell you, it is. It's amazing. That God went incredible lengths, and I asked Breanna, how would you describe your life now? She said, Terry, I have a thriving life. I have a thriving life. She has dreams. She has good things. And I want you to know that thriving life God has for you. He has it if you'll go after it. He has it if you'll receive it. Maybe one of the things you just never followed well. You need to start following well. What if God's telling you things and you just say, but because you say so, I'm going to do it, God. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to choose to follow it. He wants to do something great in your life. He wants to change you. He wants you to thrive. Now I'll tell you, we are going to celebrate. We're not going to miss the chance to do that. And so one of the things, we're going to have an opportunity to practice it right now, and I hope you'll do it. You got two options. You can go and you can have this striving life where you grab this thing and you go look for the next thing. But I'll tell you, we made a phone call this week, and we ordered 4,000 Buskin cookies. We're going to give everybody here a Buskin cookie. And I'll tell you, nothing says celebration like icing and crumbs on your face and on the floor. In Jesus' name, it is a good place to be. We're going to give everybody one of these puppies. It's got a water tower on it. Fortunately, it doesn't taste like a water tower. It's much better. But we're going to have an opportunity to do this. You can grab it and you can go, or you can grab one on your way out and stay for 5 minutes and tell somebody something you've got to celebrate. Tell somebody something God's done in your life. Tell him the dream he's put into you. Tell him how good he is. Follow him well. Receive from him. He has the good life for you. He wants you to thrive. Will you receive it? Who wants to thrive? Who wants it? We should want it. We're getting a chance to receive that right now as we get a chance to celebrate. God, thank you. God, so much to celebrate. God, I thank you for people that they're hearing that you want them to follow. God, I pray that they would follow you well. I pray that they would just connect with you and they would receive all the blessing you have, because when we follow you, God, you are there. God, help us people that don't miss the opportunity to celebrate. God, thank you that you give a thriving life. It comes from you. It doesn't come anywhere else. It comes from you. And you are trustworthy and good. In Jesus' name, amen. Guys, as we get ready to get out of here, I want us to redeem something. We're about to have a vacation day tomorrow. I want us to celebrate. And as we do that, social media divides us. Social media is where we can be passive. We're going to have the opportunity to redeem that. So we have this hashtag how to thrive. I want you to take a picture while you're celebrating. I want you to take a picture as you're following well and saying BBYSS. I want you to post it. We're going to thrive as a community. Man, God wants you to thrive. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.